Are you a beginner artist? Does your art never look like your reference photo? Does it feel impossible to turn boxes into figures? Do you feel like your poses aren't dynamic, or perhaps they even feel stiff and unbalanced? Or maybe you just feel a lack of artistic direction altogether? Then this video is for you. I'm going to give you 5 concrete art tips you can use to address all of the issues I just mentioned, and I'm going to do it all in only 5 minutes. So with that said, and the timer on the clock, let's get into the video. When studying a reference, we want to spend an equal amount of time looking at our reference as we do drawing.
Look at this, look at it, look at it!
So if we draw for 5 minutes, you better stare down that refy for 5 minutes too. We want to make sure we're drawing actually what we see instead of what we think we see. So how do we do that? 2 major ways are measuring our proportions and looking at the negative space in our drawings. Proportions are the relationship between different parts of a single object. For instance, if we look at human proportions, we can see that the standard human figure is roughly 7.5 to 8 heads tall. What that means is we can use the head as a measurement for how far away different body parts should be from one another. For example, we can see that the base of the torso is the halfway point of our figure at approximately 4 heads tall. In this pose, we can see that the elbow extends approximately 2 heads from our center head, and we can use that information to accurately capture the reference in our drawing. Another way to shoot for accuracy is capturing the negative space in an image. When looking at a pose, anywhere there is not a person is negative space. These negative spaces create simple shapes that we can capture in our drawings. By accurately translating these shapes into our art, we can determine how far the legs are from one another, the distance an arm is from a torso, or even the correct angle of a bent figure. So when studying, really make sure you are accurately observing your reference in order to get the best result. Do not use boxes when drawing figures.
No, don't you do that!
I don't know where this box thing got propagated from, but I'm just as fed up with it as Sam Does Arts is. Mostly because when I was a beginner little art baby myself, I fell down this trap too. But then I got myself learnt and embraced the holy grail that is organic shapes. Now, don't get me wrong, the boxy construction figure is a useful tool for learning, but it is not meant to be used to draw an actual human figure on top of. You should think of the box person as a metaphor or a simile. A box person is like a human figure, but it is not actually what the human figure is built on top of. The box figure should be used when you're trying to accurately understand the planes of the human form. For instance, if you have a complicated pose, you can break it down into the box figure to better understand which direction the torso and the pelvis are facing. But after you do that, you need to set your little box man to the side and go back to organic shapes. I'm partial to the flower sack shape myself as someone who predominantly makes art for animation, but you can also use egg-like shapes that mimic the relationship between the rib cage and the pelvis. So no more boxes. They're done. They're over with. They're out of here. Gone. Done with.
Get them out of here.
If your poses are feeling stiff, it's likely because you don't understand the overall energy of the pose.
Energy!
That's where the line of action comes in. The line of action is a line that sweeps through the figure and captures the direction and gesture of the pose. There are 2 primary lines of action: S-curves and C-curves. C-curves are used when the body is generally flowing in a single direction and can be seen clearly in action poses. S-curves demonstrate a subtle shift in energy and are often a go-to when trying to make a standing pose look dynamic. Now, obviously you can find use cases for these lines of action outside of the 2 that I've mentioned here, but they're just where I've seen them pop up the most. Also, if you're liking the video so far and wouldn't mind subscribing, I'd really appreciate it. I'm on a journey to hit my first 1,000 subscribers, so if you want to be a day one to the next big art channel, now is your chance. Another way to make our stiff figures feel more dynamic is by utilizing Contra-PASTA.
Pasta for sure.
Okay, so it's actually called Contra-PASTA, which already is what a fun word, but isn't Contra-PASTA just fun? Contra-PASTA is when we subtly shift our weight in favor of one foot over another. What this creates is a misalignment between the pelvis and the shoulders, which feels like a much more natural standing pose. Now, not every pose needs this. For instance, if you want to create a really strong, powerful, stiff superhero pose or something, that may be an occasion to leave the hips and the shoulders parallel with each other. On average, however, we want to make sure we're incorporating Contra-PASTA into our drawings to make them feel more dynamic and alive. For our final tip, I think it's really important that you pick a goal for your art. This is a good idea because it can help you to direct your studying towards topics and fundamentals that will serve what you actually want to draw. Your goal could be you want to make manga, create animations, riot level splash paintings, or maybe you just want to make incredibly in-depth figure drawings like Stan Prokopenko. But ultimately, you want to pick a direction so that you can get further down that road than you would if you just started studying everything. Now, it can be good to have a general knowledge of art, but if you wanted to become an animator, for instance, you would want to focus on figure and gesture drawing and obviously animation itself over studying color theory and rendering perhaps. Again, in the long term, we want to learn all of these concepts, but as beginners, it's more useful to pick the fundamentals that are most applicable to our current journey so that we're not overwhelmed before we get a solid foundation for ourselves to build upon. Okay, so that is all 5 art tips in 5 minutes. And if you like this video, I can almost guarantee that you'll like this one that I have right here. So you should click it. Click it. Click it now. Do it.